Hey guys, it's probably safe to say at this point that we're not really that shocked or that affected anymore when somebody breaks into the market with their own single stack concealable carry pistol anymore. These subcompacts, they're all over the place. Everybody makes one. Every legitimate company that's out there putting out a firearm of any kind has a subcompact single stack. We saw all the hoopla with the Glock 43 and whatnot. Of course, you got Smith & Wesson M&P, the Shield. So I'm not real surprised or shocked, or really, I don't salivate that much whenever I see somebody do it. However, there's a company called Honor Defense that is not innovative as far as the style of the gun, not innovative as far as the function of the gun. The price is innovative. When you get a price like you get with this Honor Defense Honor Guard, along with the quality and some of the features that you get, that gets my attention. Let's take a look at this one. This is the Honor Defense Honor Guard in 9mm. The name of the company is Honor Defense, and the name of the pistol is Honor Guard. A little bit confusing, but you'll get it. This is a good looking gun. It's a familiar looking gun. As I stated, it has the looks of a Smith & Wesson M&P. More on that later. But one of the first things you will notice is the texturing on the frame itself. Not only is the texturing pleasant looking, because it gives it a streamlined look just with the design of the texturing and the shape of it, but as we will see later on, it's got a nice feel to the pistol itself. Really good grip. It aids in that. The pistol ships with 2 magazines. One is a 7-rounder, a little bit more concealable, less room on it for your pinky finger to rest on. The second magazine is an 8-rounder with a little bit more room to grip. From the standpoint of grip, one thing I did notice is that with this grip extension, yes, it feels better. It feels obviously just like an M&P, but it gives you more to hold on to. You feel a little bit better about your overall grip. As far as the shorter grip, yeah, just like everybody else will say, their pinky finger is going to kind of hang off the edge a little bit like that. I don't find it to be much of a problem because I'm getting most of my grip with my 2 middle fingers anyway. I'm just used to it. If you shoot a lot of concealed carry, you're probably going to get used to that also. But it always feels more comfortable, no doubt, when you can rest that 4th finger, that pinky finger, on the grip as well. As far as the sights, I'm a big critic of front sights. Being a concealed carrier, I want my front sight to be very easy to acquire. This is a painted on red sight, very, very visible. I would like it to be a night sight. Maybe they'll offer that later on. But this front sight really jumps out at you. Really easy to acquire. And real quick on this rear sight, it has a really cool forward-facing shelf that allows you to hook this thing on your belt or a tabletop or anything like that. In the event your support hand is preoccupied or injured, it allows you to still charge this slide. One thing that we mentioned that's really cool about this firearm is that you have your over the top of the slide serrations on this thing. What I like about that is if you have decent sized hands, and I don't have the biggest hands, but decent size, and if your natural reaction is to go for the rear serrations whenever you're trying to rack this thing or charge the slide, you're going to get with the palm of your hand some of that front serration with the back of the palm of your hand. In other words, when you go to grab it like this, you're still grabbing. You can see on the back side of my palm, I'm getting some of that. Now, some people are of the opinion that a concealed carry firearm should not have a really light trigger, and this is apparently one of them. As you can see, we get a trigger pull between 7 and slightly over 8 every time we test it. Now, as far as mechanical functionality on this Honor Defense, this trigger worked fine. A little bit different for me. I had to get used to it, but as you can see, very short take up. I like that. I like knowing that I'm not having to go way to the front of my trigger guard in order to reestablish my trigger to engage it again. I like this. I like that very short take up. One of the things I wasn't real happy with was I noticed that the magazine with the 8-round extension to it, or the extension to allow for 8 rounds, was very tough to load the 7th and 8th round. I'm sure it had something to do with the floor plate and with the tighter spring or the bigger spring in there getting crunched down at the bottom of it. Whenever I loaded the 7-round magazine, absolutely no problems. And this was throughout the day. Had no problems loading the 7-round every single time. Yes, eventually the 8-rounder loaded, but it was a little tougher as you got to the end. And I'm okay with that. It was a noticeable difference. And speaking of ammo, this Honor Defense is plus P rated. It was actually fired from the factory with a plus P proof load. Now, I wanted to take some 7-yard shots. As you know, this is your standard self-defense range. As you can see, not much trouble controlling this. Recoil very light. And shots are pretty much on target. Again, this is about 7.5 yards. Not much of an issue hitting your target. The triggered reset really helps. I figured I'd try it at 21 yards. Not bad.
I was able to consistently control this firearm, all except the last shot, of course.
Guys, that's going to do it for us today with this Honor Defense. I really like this thing. It's the price point more than anything. I would have to say that the things that impress me most about this gun over, say, your Glocks and your MMPs and all the other single stack concealable firearms out there, is the fact that you, and this is just me, I like the feel of this gun. I like the texturing. The texturing around this whole thing. A lot of times you're going to pay for some custom stippling on a firearm to get some of the things that you get on this one with this, all the texture on the back side of it, the front side of it, under the trigger guard, all that good stuff. I like that. I really like that. If nothing else, look, when you're shooting a firearm, if there's anything mentally that gives you the edge, that makes you feel more comfortable with the firearm, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. So whether I think I'm getting a good grip or whether I'm actually not getting one is besides the point. If I think I'm getting one, I'm going to be more comfortable and more confident when I'm firing this firearm. Another thing I like the serrations going across the top. They are a little bit rounded. I'd like them to be a little bit more aggressive, so I feel like I'm getting more of a grip on it. But going across the top and having the front serrations, that's a nice thing. I like that. Overall, this is a good firearm. I'm not going to put it above your Glocks and your MMPs and all that. I will say this, I'd put it equal with it. We had no malfunctions with this thing. I had no issues with it whatsoever. It functioned perfectly. The trigger, a little bit different. Not saying it's bad, it's just different. I'm not used to this particular type of trigger. I don't know if it's just because I'm not used to it that I'm not a huge fan of it, but I can't say that it's a bad trigger. It's just different. You know, when you're not used to something, you're not comfortable with something, it's going to change the way you feel about it overall. Again, I can't dog the trigger out. I like the Ambidextrous Controls, even though I don't use them. The sights are nice. That front sight really pops out at you. So overall, because of the price point, I would have to say this is a really good value gun right here. You want to probably get your hands on one. If you have a range where you can go rent one or just borrow one to see, I highly suggest it because you may find yourself walking out the door with one of these.
One thing about this Honor Defense Honor Guard 9mm that we cannot forget to mention is that it is made in the USA and it is assembled by veterans. Way to go, Honor Defense.